Well, we're starting a pair of Viking tongs. I've never built a pair. We're going to try. Also going to take this piece of lawnmower blade and try to make it into a draw knife. Greetings, everybody. Hello. Go over here to the treadle. We're going to attempt this. I don't know if it's going to work out or not. We're going to try it. We're going to have to heat it up one more time. That material is pretty thin, so I'm going to have to thicken it up. So I'm winging it. So I'm going to teach you guys how to build a set of tongs without having a set of tongs. So you want to use at least 1/4 inch material. This is 1/4 inch by this is 1/4 inch by 3/4. So it's 3/4 of an inch this way and 1/4 inch thick. And what we're going to do is I'm going to do one jaw on one end, and I'm going to do one jaw on the other end on the opposite side. Okay, so now we'll go back over here and we'll go back to cutting with the butcher on the treadle hammer. The trick to this is not cutting all the way through and marring up my tool and marring up the top of my treadle. Now, this is hardenable steel, so I do not want to leave this laying around because it doesn't going to weld like mild steel. So we'll want to put this someplace. I want to put this someplace where it isn't going to get messed up and get used like a piece of mild steel. Question is, where am I going to put it? Probably in the garbage would be a good thing. There's a method to my madness. All right. Go back over here. I try not to forge checks. That tends to get you into trouble. So I've got a little relief on the side of this anvil right here that's not sharp. I'm using that so I don't leave a bunch of hammer marks in there. And then I'm using the round die on this hammer to try to match this a little bit. So this isn't 2-dimensional, it's 3-dimensional. See how it's thicker here than it is here? So I took that material and I squashed it down so we've got extra strength in here. So now I'm going to tighten this up a little bit. While we're doing that, thanks for the likes, I appreciate it. I'm going to narrow this up because we don't need all of this width. We only need about that. I'm just kind of laying out. I'm laying that out right now, and then I'll go back and cut it. That is a Subaru. I generally do not leave it in the shop because I don't like to have things with gasoline in the blacksmith shop. But it got down to 22 below zero last night. So I brought the car in to keep it from freezing up totally because I might need it tomorrow. So you'll rarely see the Subaru in the blacksmith shop. Okay, so because I'm using this gas forge behind me, that little gas forge right there, I have to heat up a large section of the steel. And I need to isolate the hot part of the steel that I want to bend. So I'm going to use some courtesy quenching to facilitate this from happening. So what I'm going to do is I got a bucket over here and a can. I'll show you. So that is my forge. That's my slack tub. And that's a coffee can. And I'll show you what I'm going to do here. I don't want this to bend. I'm going to cool that off. So now that's kind of the shape that we have. That's half of a set of tongs. That's half a set of tongs. So I've just made half a set of tongs without a set of tongs. Now we're going to do the same thing on this end. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do them opposite. So this tong is bent this way. This tong is going to be bent this way. And you'll understand why I'm going to do that in a minute. Yeah. I don't know if it's time, but there ain't very many of us on YouTube, I can tell you that. I'm trying to promote art, craftsmanship, and something other than political, the political baloney and game live streaming on YouTube. That's my goal. I'm trying to give people something else to watch other than that. And stay tuned because every day in my live stream, I'm going to change this. This is different from yesterday, and tomorrow it's going to be different until it's all gone because I'm sick of fighting with this facial hair. So even my face is art. It actually shears a little better if it's not quite so hot. Well, I care about politics, but I'm not going to focus on it. We can talk about other stuff. We don't have to talk about that baloney. I'll let everybody else talk about that stuff. Everybody else that doesn't know what the hell's going on. I'm going to talk about something that I know about. 36 years of doing this. I actually know something about this. Okay, so now we're going to come back over here to this anvil. And I'm going to attempt to match this end on this end. So I'm going to do a little measuring. We're just exactly right there. Another tool that I made. All right, back to the butcher and the cutter. This is called a butcher. Handle butcher. Yeah, I got that pretty much cut through now, so now we're going to heat up this other end. Got to get more of that heated up. How's everybody doing? Welcome to Cody Iron Works. Welcome to my blacksmith shop. It's noisy, it's loud. We make stuff. This is the latest one, just back from my leather guy. Damascus. You see the Damascus pattern? It's pretty subtle. Elk horn handles. And look at that beautiful leather. Joel does. And he's getting to do the good work. So yeah, that one just got finished up today. I just got it back from my leather guy. Okay, back to here. So about one more width. I'm gonna go. Try to match this. Something like that. Might have got it a little wonky, but we can fix it in the forging. Hold on. Cheat. Messing with my treadle. Oh, I bent it. Whacked it too hard. I've got several big vices. So I've got a 10-inch, an 8-inch, a 6-inch, and a 4-inch. And here's set up. I screwed that up, but it doesn't matter much. You want those to be opposite of each other. But on this style of tong, it doesn't really matter. We can fix it. The big thing is we want to make them both the same size. So I'm going to measure from tip, bend, tip to bend. like that. And then I know where to bend that back the other way. Might have to put a glove on. Piece of steel is getting a little bit warm. I'm going to make a little draw knife. I always try to keep those a few of those little miniature draw knives around, but I get one built and somebody comes in and buys it from me. So I need a draw knife because I have to work on this handle for this little tomahawk. And so the easiest way to do that is to use a draw knife to draw that down, but I sold my tool. So I got to build another tool. Yeah, this handle is going to go on this piece of I think that's hickory. No, it might be oak. Might be oak. I need to make a tool. Let me grab a glove. Courtesy quench. So kind of getting there. I need to bring this back a little bit, but see, I courtesy quenched that off so I could isolate my bend. So all these old school English handles, like they'll have a cutting face. This face of the handle is hardened and you don't ever want to cut on it. But this face is soft. I keep that quenching chuck just back away from the ab a little bit because I've had a couple of pieces of steel go flying in there and harden up. And That's a pain in the butt. So I've learned over the years to keep my quench tank back away from my anvil. That term, the ragged edge. Because you don't want to forge that back into your work. Could I have used a cutoff wheel and cut that off with a cutoff wheel? Yeah, but what fun is that? Now there's a couple ways to do this. So I can take that chisel and I can slit that right up here like this. And then this will be a rein and this will be a rein, like I did on this set of tongs. Always wondered what it was for. Square stuff off. Well, it works for that too, but it's the soft face of the anvil, so you can use a chisel without worrying about damaging your anvil. Damaging your anvil or your chisel. So I might split that. Or what you can do is you can just cut it in half and draw it out. You will end up with a shorter rein if you cut it out. Cut it and draw it out, you'll end up with a shorter rein, but you'll end up with a rein that's square-er. So it'll have less spring throughout this. But what I very well might do is I might just take this over to the bandsaw and cut this out with the bandsaw. But we're going to let it cool down first. That's how you build a set of tongs without tongs. Well, you can go back and watch my lives. I've been doing at least one live a day for a while. So everybody, you can't buy tongs that you need. No tong that you're going to buy is going to fit what you need to do. So you need to be able to build tongs. And so you need to be able to build tongs. And so this is about the easiest way I have found to build tongs. So the very first tool when you start blacksmithing, don't screw around with railroad spike knives. Don't screw around with messing around with rebar. Get a little bit of good steel. Learn how to build a chisel. You need to start with 2 chisels. You need to start with a hot chisel. So you need to learn how to forge a hot chisel and how to harden and temper it. And you need to learn how to build a cold chisel. You got to start by making yourself some tools. Everybody wants to screw around and start making knives the very first thing. That is a bad mistake because you go to pounding on one of these railroad spikes. You go to pounding on one of these railroad spikes like this, and you try to make it into one of these knives as your first product, as your first thing that you do. And what you'll end up doing is you'll wear yourself out and you'll quit. Because nobody realizes how hard it is to turn this into this. The very first thing that I learned how to do in farrier school was make hoof picks, tapers. So you make yourself, this is a hot chisel. See how narrow it is? And this is a cold chisel. See how blunt it is? But you got to learn how to harden them, harden and temper them. And that's really the first things you should be learning as a blacksmith. And then you learn how to make punches and drifts. Punches and drifts. That's the next thing you need to know how to do. I'll tell you why in a minute. And then as you get better, you can step up your tools. So this actually is 3 pieces of steel. This is forge welded. That hinge is a forge weld. So I took 2 pieces of steel, I forged them together. And this is actually chuck spring. This is high carbon steel. So that's don't mess around with knives. I know forged in fire and all that bullshit. Do not do that. Listen to the guy who's been doing it for 36 years. Okay, so what do I want to do here? I think we're going to cut this, but I'm going to cheat. Because I want to get them done. They're still a little warm. So you don't have this tool that I'm going to show you, and that's fine. You can cut those. We're making tongs. We're going to cut that with a chisel, just like I did that piece of steel. You're going to do it exactly the same way. Now you watched me do it with a hot chisel right here on this anvil. If you have some help, it's easier because cutting this long stuff out is difficult. What you can do is get something sacrificial that's soft, like mild steel. You put that on the main part of your anvil. This is called a dog. And you just make them. These can be mild steel to start with. It's a clamp. Then you take your hot chisel and you can just cut that if you want to. The great thing about being a blacksmith is you make your own tools. Okay, but we're going to cheat. We're going to cheat because I'm smart and I've already done all this stuff. So we're going to come over here. I'm old man, so I walk the plate off of it. You get some new guides on it. If you guys subscribe, I could go buy myself a new bandsaw. I think I've had this one for 15 or 20 years. Let's see how good I got my how close I got my forgings. Well, not real close. We got a little manipulation to do. But we do have a set of tongs now. If a guy was really smart and I wasn't doing this, what I would have done is I would have traced the first one I did on the anvil face, and I would have matched the other one to it. But we didn't quite get them even. Not that it matters much, because you can have one bigger than the other, but they work a lot better and they look a lot better if they match. So we're gonna adjust a little bit. But now you have a set of tongs. So there's a lot of way to take that sharp edge off of there. A file is the best. You can make files, but it's cheaper to buy them. This is going to be our handle. I do some gun content, but I keep it on the private side because YouTube hates it. That's as close as I can let you get to it without them demonetizing me. They're very strict about that. So I'm using the round face on this hammer. I'm getting right in there like that. What's everybody doing? You can't put bad stuff in my comments because the AI, it just takes it right out of there. I don't even have to mess with it anymore. So if you guys are coming in here and trying to troll me, good luck. Doesn't work. Let me go turn the fan on. It's warming up in here. Went from 15 below to 85 degrees in here. Put your clothes on now. I should have measured her a little better, but this is for demonstration purposes. So you guys get to see it. Thanks for the likes. Thanks for the subscriptions if you're subscribing. I'd really like to get to 150,000 subscribers. That'd be great. So I want this to be a little paper. Camels. I don't know. Newports out here in Wyoming are kind of a woman's thing. You don't see a lot of men smoking Newports out here in Cody, Wyoming. Now we're getting there. Now we're getting there. Getting pretty hot. Back in the day, I used to smoke Lucky Strikes. Yeah, they're about $9 a pack here too. Now you can see where I'm going with this. Ah, that'll work. Okay, so this is as far as I'm going to go with this tonight because the drill press and everything is back there. I don't want to move the camera. But what you would do from here is you would clamp these together with a vice grip. And you would drill that. And a bigger rivet is always stronger. And you don't need a real rivet. You can just use some round stock. This is some 5/16 round stock. Well, how do you make a head on a rivet? Well, you don't even need to do that when you're building a set of tongs like this. What you do is you get a piece of the parent stock, whatever this was, and you drill a hole in it. But you want it to be about the thickness of one side of this material, 1/4 inch. And then what you do is you lay that down. And you want your rivet to be the thickness of your material, and you want to have at least half of the thickness of the material sticking out on both ends. Then you heat that up, and you cool one end off, and you put it through the hole, through that hole in the backing plate. That keeps you from messing the bad end, the cool end up. Then you rivet it over. Then you put them in the forge, and you heat them up, and you do the other side. And then you've got a set of tongs. And now you have a set of tongs made without a set of tongs. And that's how you make tongs with no tongs. I've got lots of videos if you guys are interested. Thanks everybody for sticking around. Thanks for the likes and the subscriptions. I appreciate it. If you want to see the stuff that I sell, I make a lot of stuff. I think I've got 40 products on my Etsy store. Stick around and I'll show you some of the stuff I built. I build axes. I build war hammers. I build big axes. I do jewelry. And I do a couple of hundred knives a year. So yes, I do make knives. But most of my business is interior stuff. Hat racks, toilet paper holders, towel bars, drawer pulls. That's where I make most of my money. I do tomahawks, all kinds of stuff. And lots of wall hooks. And I'm building a draw knife tonight. Questions? Comments? How do you like the beard? What do they call those guys? They don't call them yuppies anymore. They call them, what do they call those guys now? I can't even think of the term. Used to be yuppies, but they don't call them yuppies anymore. I do all right. Clearly, I'm not starving. I'm doing all right. The great thing about it is I don't have a boss. I work my own hours. I don't have to commute to work. And I don't have to do small talk with people on a daily basis because my business is online. And if I want to wear a funny hat and stand here and twist my mustache all day, I can do that. Life is good. If you're measuring the success in your life by money, you're going to be highly disappointed in the end. Exactly. And I get to build whatever I want. I know you see me now and you see the old guy that I am with the wrinkles and the whiskers, but there was a time in my life, and it wasn't very long ago, well, 20 years ago, that I was flitting around the United States in a private jet plane and I was wearing a Rolex watch. And I was staying at 5-star resorts and I was hanging out with all those people that did that. And I was miserable, and most of the people that I was hanging around with were miserable. I'm going to tell you, if I had to trade the money for the happiness and the serenity that I have now in my life, I'll do it every day. Because once you make a certain amount of money, Here's what I know, hanging out with some very wealthy people. Once you hang out with a certain amount of money, make a certain amount of money, the more money you make, it does not equate to more happiness. Dad, yep, I'm 53. It's the simple things in life. I get to see my son almost every night. Took him to lunch today. And I wouldn't be able to do that if I was working for somebody else. I wouldn't just be able to go call him up and go, hey, let's go to lunch today, or let's go hiking, or let me help you work on your pickup. Wouldn't be able to do that. The new pickup is only new until you drive it off of the lot. And then it doesn't take you very long where you're punching holes in it. The bass boat, all that stuff, it's just more crap that you have to take care of. And the more stuff you have, the more stuff you got to take care of. And the more time you spend taking care of that stuff, the less time you're spending on the shit that's important, like family and your friends and experiences. I sold my soul for all that stuff. And I'm not going to say it was wasted, but I'm much happier now than I was then. Do I have some stuff that I'd like? Is there some stuff I'd like to have? Yeah. Cool, man. Sure. I personally hate airports. I personally hate being herded into an airport like sheep and having to take my clothes off and have people touch me, that strangers that don't like me, and I don't like that. So for me, that's not an important thing. But if it's important to you to travel to Italy and stay in a bed that 1,000 other people have stayed in, and eat all of the food and get sick and the water and go to Mexico and do all that stuff, you do you, boo. I get it. I understand. I'll tell you what's important. Being around people that care about you. It doesn't necessarily have to be family. Family's good, but having 3 or 4 really loyal friends that will that you can call and go, I need bail money. That's the kind of friends a guy wants to have. And those kind of friends are only really available if you make yourself available to them, which requires time. The government's got all you guys fooled, see? Because all of that money, you're just trading your life for that money. You're going to work, you're working a job, the boss is making more money off of your hours than you are, and you're trading it for money that gets worth less every day, which means your life to them is getting worth less every day. They don't care about you. You need to surround yourself with some people that do. You're a blacksmith. So where are you a blacksmith at? Rainy Girl 65. What are you doing? What's your blacksmithing? Put your digits in there. Put your Instagram or whatever in there. So I've been professionally blacksmithing I started blacksmithing in 1988 or 89. I was a professional horse trainer and farrier for about 25 years. And what I would do is I would shoe horses, very expensive high dollar horses, all summer, spring, summer, and fall. And then in the winter, when I wasn't shoeing horses, I would blacksmith. I was an artist for Sundance Resort and for the catalog when Robert Redford owned it. I apprenticed with a bunch of really great artists. What I'm doing there is I'm laying that edge in, because I want to try to get this close to finished as I can when I'm forging. It's called forge to finish. The more work I do now, the less I have to do with the grinder. That little material and that big old anvil, it just draws the heat right out of it. So I got to do a lot of. Rainy Girl. Is you no Ashton? Thanks for coming in, everybody. Appreciate it. I hope you find this entertaining. And I don't mean to preach. You guys do you. If sleeping in a bed full of $100 bills makes you happy, do it. Can I get you to shout out the cleft wet Guatemalans out there struggling? But buddy, man, you guys are funny. I'm not up for anyone else to care more about you than you do. If you could do better somewhere else, then go do that. Make more. Start out your business and do that. For me, it was never about money. I'm one of these weird old Generation Xers that money was never something that I never brought me happiness. I don't know. Maybe I'm weird, but it was never something that ever brought me joy. And whenever I had a bunch, I just spent it. Just not something that a big bank account was nothing that ever brought me security or. But I'm just weird. But in 50 years of life, I lived through lead paint, lead in the gasoline, DDT. I lived through the Cold War, the fall of the Berlin Wall. We lived through the Oklahoma City bombing. Essentially 3 wars in the Middle East. No internet. The rise of the internet. Seen a lot. And it's changed, and the last 50 years has changed more than the previous 150. So my great grandmother was riding around on steam engines and on horses, and then she, drove an automobile. But technology has changed more in the last 50 years than it has ever. No, it's just the way the camera is. I'm sorry. I don't have the app that turns it around, so I'm not left-handed. Here's the proof. See my cups backwards. It's the way the camera is. Okay, so this is a medium carbon steel. I like making these knives, these draw knives out of big heavy lawnmower blades because they're really tough. The steel's really tough. But now that we've forged this, you get it changes everything, and so it changes the crystal structure on the inside of it. And so now what we got to do is we got to relax all of that stuff that we did some pretty dramatic changing on that piece of steel. And so we want to let everything relax before we harden it up. So I've got this bucket. I pray you will refrain from negative interpretations of my comments. If I seem like I'm coming off negative, I just get a ton of negative, you know, the trolls in here. Sometimes I'll have 120 people in here, and you know, the internet, everybody's a professional troll. So pardon me. Good vibes. See, I got old Frida hanging there. That's old Frida, Frida Kahlo, very famous artist back in the 20s. Make art, not war. Make art, not war. So this is perlite. So if you go to Walmart and you get you some potting soil, they put this perlite in there. And it works as you can't burn it, and it works really great as an insulator. So we're going to get that blade up to above critical temperature. And then we're going to lay it in this bucket, and we're going to let it cool down real slow. And it'll take about 6 hours for that blade to cool down in this perlite. Then we're going to lay it in there, and we're just going to let it rest. We're going to let it cool down real slow, and it's going to relax all of that steel, and then we'll come back and we'll harden it. Williamsburg, what? Yeah, I used to use wood ash a lot. I like hardwood ash a lot, but I don't have a wood stove in the blacksmith shop anymore. I used to have a big half whiskey barrel full of wood ash, and so I could anneal a bunch of knives and big stuff in it. But when I moved into this shop, some stuff had to go, and I should have coveted that big hardwood ash bucket, but I only had so much room, so it got dumped. So now I use perlite. Sometimes what I'll do is I've got a 3-burner NC Cavalry forge over there, and I'll heat it up, and then I'll just block up all the doors. I've also used kale wool, where you can lay your blades in between 2 pieces of kale wool. Don't run away, Mr. Williamsburg. I'll show you some of my knives and stuff. I actually just put out a in search of on Facebook yesterday. I'm looking for some rifle barrels because I want to do some pike tomahawks. And the way I learned how to do it was from an old blacksmith from back in your part of the country who made his pike tomahawks out of pieces of cut off rifle barrel. Vermiculite or perlite, yep. I like wood ash, but you got to be careful too, because especially in a shop like this, because if there's any bit of charcoal in there, it'll catch fire, and now you got your blacksmith shop full of smoke. Oh man, you guys are terrible. You're terrible. All right. Got that fairly hot. Cover that blade up. I can't quite get that handle in there, but it doesn't matter because that handle is going to be annealed out anyway, so it doesn't matter. So now we're just going to let that rest. All right, so now it's time for show and tell. Show and tell. So, start over here. This is one I'm pretty proud of. This is one my son and I forged last winter. Apprenticeship. If you can find an apprenticeship, good, excuse me, good luck. I personally have not taken any apprentices because the last one I took, he promised me he wasn't going to go into business against me, and he sure did. And so no more apprentices for me. I just give all the information away for free on YouTube. So there's one of my axes. I based this one off of a one of those Canadian axes. The trappers used to carry. Okay, gun barrels. You can make it quick by rolling. Yeah. But I'm too lazy to make the gun barrels just to cut them up to make tomahawks out of. So there's about 15 gunsmiths here in Cody, Wyoming. And so I was just looking for some pieces. Yeah, I made a very good living as a farrier for 25 years, but after a while I just got tired of the people in the, when I turned 40, it was like, okay, I'm done. I learned smithing in farrier school. I went to farrier school first, and then I apprenticed with a lot of blacksmiths along the way. So I was doing very high end. I was doing a lot of 100 jumper horses. If you watch my live streams from yesterday, I covered doing aluminum, forging aluminum, and I did all kinds of stuff with that. So there's one of the axes. Here's one that I helped my son build a while back. This is just a little, it's almost like a boy's axe size. And then here's a war hammer I made. Yeah, it kind of is. You learn the basics. You learn the basics doing farrier work. But you learn how to be real efficient, and you learn how to manage a hammer and tongs and stuff like that. Because if you can hang on to a horseshoe and forge it, you can hang on to anything. Well, self-taught is a lot easier now than it used to be because of YouTube, and you got a lot more. See, I started this whole deal back in the 80s before there was a internet, and so it's a lot easier now. Stand by, I want to show you. I got a couple of knives I want to show you. See if I can do this without breaking these. Okay, so this was I don't do a lot of custom work. This is for an old Marine buddy of mine that I know from the Elks Club. And my buddy Joel does all my leather work. It's 40 degrees out. Not sure if my car is going to start. No, it probably won't. Hence the reason I've got mine sitting in the blacksmith shop. See, you're funny because you think that somehow being considered a homosexual is a bad thing, and I don't care. I'm totally okay with my sexuality, so I really don't care. It sounds to me like you're the one that has the problem. So, elk horn, ladder Damascus. Well, but what makes this knife is this sheath. Joel went all out on this one. He really did. He even put the Marine Corps globe and anchor on there. And then We don't have a lot of hardwood here. So this is Osage. Yeah. So, there's a lot of way to do these guards. I hand forge my guards, uh, and I split them, and then I rivet them on. At least on these ones I do. On these knives I did it that way. Seems like I go in that. But this next one is my shtick. I love making stuff out of other stuff. That's kind of my gig. Yeah, it's Osage orange. Yeah. Bodock, I guess they call it in some parts of the country. Yeah, it does. They use it. They grow it a lot out in the Midwest for fence posts, but we don't have it here in Wyoming. We have very few deciduous trees here. So this is a forged. I don't like doing stock removal knives very much. I'm more of a, as you can tell, a forge guy, and so that's a horseshoe and rasp forged with the black walnut handles. And if you're more into the forging, I'll show you some of my forgings that I have here. So, I do a little of everything. So here's one of my little faces. I guess they grow it up as far north as Michigan, because my buddy brought that out from Michigan for me. The rasps, how do you temper them? I'm a blacksmith. So I actually have a toaster oven, and I temper them in a toaster oven. I've made so many knives out of rasp that I've got it down to a pretty good science after doing hundreds and hundreds of them. No, the cottonwood is really, even though cottonwood they consider deciduous, it's really soft and it splits really easy. So I've never, unless you're going to stabilize it, I've never had really very good luck with cottonwood. And sagebrush is really cool too, but you have to stabilize it because it's just not hardened. It doesn't really make very good handles. Yeah. Torch temper, you can do that. You got to be careful. And it's pretty, on a big knife like that, especially the thin ones, it's really easy to warp them. So, but there's my arrowheads that I do, and there's a bodkin point. And then if you're more into the art, here's my steerhead wall hooks. We used to temper with a hot tong, like a block tong, like a big block tong, and then run the tong along the spine of the knife. I've seen that done, but I've never done it. I have used a piece of steel and laid the steel on the anvil and then run the back of the blade along that and run the temper out that way, but I haven't had very good luck with it. I lived in Park City, Utah for 13 years, but I came back every summer to train horses and stuff. So I had a very good horse training and farrier business in Park City for 13 years. And then I'd come back in the summer to Cody and start a lot of colts. My dad had a horse ranch, and so I started a lot of colts for him. I do my leaves a little different, and I do my horse faces a little different than everybody else. I'll show you one of the horse faces. So here's the happy little horse faces. And I did a live stream this morning, and you can go back and watch it and see these happy little horses. But most all my business, oh, here, these are kind of cool. Well, I did this little tomahawk head on a live stream last night. The guy from Virginia, he'll get a kick out of this. So I actually forge welded, which is very hard to do in this little one burner propane forge. I actually forge welded this in this forge last night, and it looks to me like that weld took pretty good. And then here's my Viking style ones, and those are made out of horseshoe and rasp. This one actually has a forged in bit. Excuse me. So there's the Viking style one, and there's the traditional style ones. Thank you. Appreciate that. So, but I've always prided myself on being just a general blacksmith. So I started as a horseshoer, so I learned how to make punches and pritchels and all of those tools. I have plasma cut knife blades out of chop saw, cold cut saw blades. But I don't really specialize in it. I've done some of them, but it's not. I'd much rather forge my blades than do stock removal knives. So, and I don't specialize in knives anymore. I used to do a lot of knives, a couple hundred a year, but I probably do 100 knives a year now. Yeah, it took me about, between doing the live stream and everything last night, I think that live stream was almost 3 hours. But I did a lot of other forging too. So I had about 3 hours in the one I did. So, but I was talking and I was working on a bunch of other stuff. So, all right. Any other questions from anybody? Yeah, you're welcome. I'm glad you guys are into this. I'm glad this is kind of taken off. And I'm a big YouTube guy, and I watch YouTube, and I just got really sick of the news and watching the news and what other live streams were. I really started live streaming during COVID on Reddit. And a lot of times on my Reddit, I'd have 70 or 80,000 people watching me on my live stream in the early morning. And then after COVID, you couldn't live stream on Reddit anymore. So I moved over to YouTube and started doing it. So, yeah, and I've done it both ways. I drift tomahawks because it's just easier to forge weld them, but I do, and I don't do a ton of them. But I did. This is a piece of truck spring, and that is. I don't know if you've ever forged that 5160 like that, but oh my God, that is some hard stuff to forge. I mean, my son and I have done 2 of these, and it is work. It is work to drift that eye. And even with my big Viking son, who's 6'3" and weighs 225 pounds, it's swinging a 12-pound hammer. It's a job. So that's why this one's still here. This one will not be sold. It turned out so good. I mean, look at that sucker. I mean, that is one sexy ass axe. I'm glad you like the stream. I appreciate it. I really do. I wish they paid. I wish the streams paid, but they don't really pay. So go watch some of my other content. Not that it pays much, but go watch some of the other content. And if you really like it, go to the Etsy store and buy a wall hook or something. Buy a bottle opener or something. If you really want to support, that'd be great. About to move to California, man. Good luck. Good luck. You know, California in the 80s was fantastic. And then by the mid 90s, it really changed. I used to sell a lot of horses there. If I was personally moving to California, I'd move Northern California. Redding, Humboldt County, someplace way north. Stockton ain't bad, but I would stay out of that Southern California for everything I could do right now. It's going to be a mess there for a while. Yeah, the link to the Etsy store. But if you just Google Cody Iron Works, you will be amazed at how much stuff comes up. If you Google Cody Iron Works, there's so I have worked very hard to make that come up like that. I'm too old to be dreamy. Gay, straight, or in between. I am too old to be dreamy. Thanks. Well, you know, your timing might be right. I don't know if you're in the trades, but it might be a very good time to move to California if you're in the trades. And if you can get away with staying away from the governmental side of that deal for a while and just kind of float in the gray economy for a little bit until you get set, you might do damn good if you're in the trades in California. You know, here's the thing about that whole acting deal. Acting has changed, and you do not have to be in California to be a successful actor anymore. And here's the proof of this right here. This channel is proof of this. I am 53 years old. We didn't have computers when I was in school. I just passed 114,000 subscribers on a YouTube channel that I have created with a $200 Motorola phone. So I'm not go to California, go enjoy California, go experience California. But I'm going to tell you, California gathers a certain kind of people, and actors are a different kind of people altogether. I have been around a bunch of them. I was just talking about my old life, and I hung around with a lot of those people, and I spent a lot of time with producers. I had a radio show, and I had a radio talk show in Park City. My ex, who shall not be named, had her own TV show, and I hung out with those people. I'm going to tell you, that is not an easy crowd. It's just not that they're bad. It's just not an easy crowd. That those producers and you might do real good as a firefighter out there. If I was younger, if I was 30 years younger, I'd probably see if I couldn't become a wildland firefighter. I always thought that that would be really cool. Get in with the wildlands portion of that. I do some silversmithing. I do. If you check out my Instagram or my Pinterest, you can see a lot of and I'm wearing one right now. I think anytime you can stay out of a city is good. And if you could be a firefighter and be in the wild and the forest, man, that'd be good living. And I know some of those guys. The great thing about that is a lot of that work is seasonal, and so you work your ass off for the fire season, and then you can go do whatever the heck you want the rest of the year, or you can stay on the crew and fight fires in the south. So, they have there's a private company here that hires a ton of firefighters in Cody, and they go all over the country, and it's a big company, and they do really good, and I think they really take care of their employees. So there's some options out there. You too. You too. I make bits and spurs. I've done a little bit of everything in the blacksmithing thing. That's a great thing is I never get bored. About the time I get bored with something, I go do something else. Like this is what they call magumagame. And so and I know that doesn't because of my cheap camera, but that's silver and copper. There you can see the magumagame on the inside. And on the outside, because it's always rubbing on my coveralls, it stays really shiny. There you can kind of see it. So that's 7 layers of copper and silver all stacked up, and then you smash it down, you forge weld it all together, and then you twist it. You make it just like Damascus. Yep, nope, this is my full-time gig. I've been doing this. I haven't had a real job in 30 years. I really have an authority problem. And so I've cowboyed, trained horses, cowboyed and shod horses, and done farrier work. That's what I've done my whole life. Yeah, that's what that is. That's silver 50-cent pieces. Thanks for the likes, everybody. I appreciate that. A forwarding is. That's a big subject. Well, I think it's only going to get to 0 tonight. It was down to 30 below 0 last night here in Cody. And tonight I think it's going to get down to 0. But tomorrow's supposed to get up into the 30s. So hopefully that was our cold snap for the winter. Man, look at the likes. Thanks for the likes, everybody. Thanks for coming in to the stream. Appreciate it. I've had a very interesting life. I've had a very interesting life. I was a radio host, a co-host on a syndicated radio show. In 2008, we did 2 pilots for 2 different television shows. I've skied at almost every resort in the Western United States, probably half of them. 20 years ago. I rode some of the best horses and trained some of the best horses in the whole country. I was an artist for Robert Redford at Sundance and met a ton of really interesting people. I've had lunch with Lauren Hutton and dinner with Robin Williams. I met pretty much everybody on the Winter Olympic ski team and a whole bunch of others. I've skied with a lot of actors. I've had a really great life. I had a rock and roll couple of years ago during COVID. I had a rock and roll band. I was the lead singer in a 4-piece band here in Cody. Oh yeah. Not bragging, because I ain't never gotten famous from it. It's not like you guys know who I am. I'm not bragging. I've just had I want to write a book. That's my next thing. I'm going to write a book one of these days. That is about the last thing on my bucket list. As I stand here in my blacksmith shop in a $50 pair of coveralls and a $20 Jesus jacket. Yeah, I've seen a lot of funny stuff being in the hills. I spent a lot of time in the hills and stuff, but I don't like to talk about it because I don't like to bring that chaos into my life. Yeah, and if you go back on the YouTube channel, especially if you go to the TikTok channel, if they ever started up, if you go to the TikTok, I sing a lot on there. I'm not really bragging. I've had a very full life. The great thing about not being tied to a job every day where I have to go and I have to I have to prove my loyalty to somebody else, to a corporation or a boss. I've just done what I wanted. Well, if you dig deep enough in here, if you go to my videos and you dig deep enough, you'll find some, because I have done some singing on here on the channel. It's not something that ever gets a lot of views because it's not what people want to see. But well, if you can retire at any age in 2025 in the United States, you're doing damn good. What would I do if I retired? Blacksmith? I don't care. You're going to have haters, and I care not about the haters. Most of them are hating because they're jealous. Well, it's the channel's not going anywhere. I'm going to get off here in a little bit anyway because I want to go get something to eat, and then I'm going to bed, and so I can get up and do a live stream tomorrow morning at 5:30. I would love to have a wood burning stove in the shop, but I lease this building, and so I can't do that. Well, whatever. I wish you peace, pleasant dreams, and all of that. I'm probably gonna. I've got some antelope in the fridge. I've got some antelope jerky in the fridge, and I got half of a Diet Dr. Pepper left, so I'm probably gonna go have some antelope jerky. Some antelope jerky and a Diet Dr. Pepper. Well, we'll see you. Come back in the morning. I guess 5 in the. Come back at 5 at night, and I'll be doing a live stream in the morning. Probably 5:30. I'll get up and do another live stream tomorrow. I've got to do a bunch of back plates and stuff. Thanks. yeah, yeah, it is. I didn't kill the antelope though because I didn't draw a tag. So I'm eating the neighbor's. I'm eating the neighbor's antelope, and it's very good. Well, that's the great thing about YouTube is you ought to be able to find something you like on here, Lynn. Well, thanks for the likes and everything, everybody. But really, if you want to support, the best thing you can do is just go to the Etsy store and like some stuff. You don't really even, if you don't have the money to buy anything, you don't. You know how it works. You cultivate that, people liking your stuff, and then more people see it, and you share some stuff, and people see it. I don't know, and I don't care. It doesn't matter. I feel sorry for her. It's all good. Yeah, maybe she's having a bad day. It's all right. We all have them. I have a lot less of them now than I used to. I've been very, very blessed in my life. Very. My whole goal in life was not to be cold, wet, or hungry. And I've always tried to strive. If I ain't one of those three things, then life is good. And I'm getting to an age now where cold, wet, or hungry, and if I can control the pain, if I can control the old age that comes, then I'm really happy. I'm in a good place. I don't know what time it is here, but it must be like 9 o'clock here or something, 8 or 9 o'clock. So I'll try to get up. I'll try to have the live stream going again tomorrow morning about 5:30. Seems like I get a lot more people in the morning. So, but I got to do a bunch of hat racks, and I got a huge order for 80 hat racks, and so I have to do 80 of these. And I think I've got about half a dozen done. So I'm going to be very busy. I'm going to be very busy doing these for the next couple of weeks. And I'm trying to get caught up on some orders for the art. I'm a member of the art league locally. I'm trying to get caught up on the art league to get stuff built up for there for the summer. No, but life ain't fair. And sometimes being not cold, wet, and hungry is good times. And sometimes sitting on a private jet plane eating M&Ms with your name on them, brought to you by a beautiful stewardess, while you're checking the time on your Rolex watch is good times. But you take it as it comes. Sometimes staying at a 5-star resort in Telluride and skiing on a pair of $1,000 skis is good times. But sometimes just being cold, wet, and hungry is good times. It's all relative. It depends on your perspective. I think that some of these guys are just jealous because I can still grow a really great mustache. uh, I've got an outline. I've got an outline for a book. I've even got the working title. And I might have another band in me one of these days. You want to hear the name of my band? I'm going to call my band the Thrift Store Cowboys. And we're going to do mostly Willie Nelson and Merle Haggard songs. All right, I'm going to get out of here, you guys. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for all the likes and the subscribes and everything. I don't know how many people were in here tonight, but it seemed like there was a bunch. I'll be back in the morning and I'll be doing the same thing. Oh, I'm a crust guy. Yeah. It's such a pain in the butt to get out of these coveralls. I just crap in them. We'll see you later. Thanks, everybody.